The atmosphere in the James S. Brady press briefing room was thick with anticipation. Ever since President Donald J. Trump had been re-elected and installed his new administration, the media had been in a frenzy, especially with the fiery and formidable Karoline Leavitt now occupying the coveted podium as White House press secretary. Known for her razor-sharp wit, photographic memory, and no-nonsense delivery, Leavitt had already made headlines with her takedowns of biased reporters and calculated political opponents. But no one expected what was coming on that stormy Tuesday afternoon. The press had gathered for a routine briefing on infrastructure and tax policy, but as Leavitt stepped up to the podium dressed sharply in a navy blue suit with the American flag pin gleaming on her lapel, her expression betrayed something more than policy talk. "Before we begin," Karoline said, her voice cool and clear, "I'd like to address a matter of national importance, an issue that has been swept under the rug for too long." The room fell silent. The clicking of camera shutters slowed. This involves Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, commonly known as AOC. Gasps rippled across the room. AOC was one of the Democratic Party's most recognizable figures, a progressive icon and media darling. For a sitting White House press secretary to name her directly was unprecedented. Karoline continued, flipping through a file she had brought to the podium. Over the last several years, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez has painted herself as a grassroots champion, an advocate for the working class, a fighter for truth. But recent findings suggest a far different story. One of corruption, hypocrisy, and the kind of elitist manipulation that the American people are sick and tired of. A reporter from CNN raised her hand, trying to interrupt. "Hold your questions," Leavitt shot back firmly. "You'll have plenty of time." She held up a document. "We've obtained credible documentation, public records, verified financial filings, and whistleblower testimonies that show how AOC used her campaign donations and congressional influence to enrich close associates through shell organizations disguised as nonprofits." Gasps turned into murmurs. The weight of the claim stunned even the more skeptical members of the press corps. From 2020 to 2024, over $3.4 million of campaign funds were funneled through two specific entities, Bronx Unity Foundation and Green Future Collective, Karoline explained, both of which, upon deeper investigation, have no physical offices, no trackable employees, and no legitimate community outreach. However, what they do have is a common denominator: their bank accounts are linked to personal acquaintances of the Congresswoman. On the screen behind her, slides began appearing, wire transfers, emails, even photos of one of AOC's alleged associates in the Cayman Islands boarding a yacht. Reporters started typing furiously. Phones rang in the background. Newsrooms around the country were being shaken awake. "And this is just the beginning," Karoline said, looking up from the slides. "We are handing over this evidence to the House Ethics Committee and calling for an independent federal investigation into the financial activities of Representative Ocasio-Cortez." The room exploded in chaos. Shouts rang out from every corner. "Are you accusing her of embezzlement? Is President Trump behind this investigation? Is this politically motivated?" Karoline raised her voice above the din. "We are committed to transparency and truth. What I've shown you are facts, documents verified and corroborated. If anyone doubts their authenticity, they are welcome to verify them independently." She pointed at the screen again. "This isn't a hit job. It's a reality check." With that, she stepped back from the podium, not waiting for more questions, and disappeared behind the curtain with the same calm she'd walked in with, leaving behind a media firestorm and a crumbling image of one of the left's most untouchable figures. The story was about to explode. The White House briefing had barely ended before every major news outlet in America went live. Fox News aired wall-to-wall coverage with the banner, "AOC exposed. Leavitt drops bombshell allegations." Meanwhile, CNN tried to balance its response, cautiously titling their segment "White House Targets AOC Amid New Allegations." Social media was another story. #AOC Exposed and #Leavitt Files were trending within the hour. But at the epicenter of the chaos was Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who was caught completely off guard. AOC was in New York at a climate rally in Queens when her aide rushed to the stage mid-speech. She paused, confused, as a wave of murmuring spread through the crowd. She was quickly ushered off stage and handed a phone. "What the hell is going on?" she asked, panic creeping into her voice. Her chief of staff grimaced. "Karoline Leavitt just accused you on live TV of funneling millions through fake nonprofits. They brought receipts. Real ones. Emails. Bank transfers." AOC blinked in disbelief. "That's insane. This is a political stunt." They can't. They have documents. And the news outlets are all over it. Even the Washington Post is calling it a potential ethics crisis. Back in Washington, Karoline Leavitt returned to her office, sipping a Diet Coke like it was just another Tuesday. Inside the West Wing, the mood was electric. Staffers congratulated her. Even President Trump himself called her into the Oval Office. "You nailed it," Trump grinned, motioning her over. She thought she was untouchable. Thought the media would protect her. But now? She's spiraling. "We're finally going on offense." Karoline nodded respectfully. "We're just getting started, Mr. President. The real details haven't even come out yet. We've got whistleblower interviews scheduled. Audio recordings. This wasn't just a one-time slip-up. This was a network of fraud." Trump leaned back, a smile playing on his lips. "That's what I like to hear." But not everyone in the administration was cheering. Behind the scenes, Democratic leadership was scrambling. House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries convened a closed-door emergency meeting with AOC and her allies, urging them to prepare for a legal defense. "This isn't just politics," Jeffries said, rubbing his temples. "This is a public relations disaster. You need to come clean on everything. Now, before subpoenas start flying." "I didn't do anything illegal," AOC shouted, slamming her fist on the table. "They're twisting facts and building a case on nonsense." But her colleagues weren't so sure. One of her former campaign aides had already agreed to testify under immunity, and reports were surfacing that the nonprofit in question had received grants from green energy lobbyists linked to insider trading. To the American people, the optics were undeniable. A self-proclaimed champion of the poor now stood accused of laundering money through fake charities and rewarding friends with cushy consulting gigs. Overnight, support for AOC began to fracture. Even some of her loyal Twitter followers were beginning to ask questions. One particularly viral tweet read, "We trusted her. She said she was different. But if these documents are real, she's just another corrupt politician." #AOC exposed. At a late-night emergency press conference outside her office in the Bronx, AOC attempted to fight back. "This administration is using lies and fabricated evidence to discredit progressives who speak truth to power," she claimed. "This is a modern-day witch hunt. I have nothing to hide, and I welcome an investigation." But the damage had been done. Karoline Leavitt had done what few thought possible. She had cracked the armor of the left's most unshakable icon, and she had done it with poise, precision, and indisputable facts. And she wasn't finished yet. Just 2 days after Karoline Leavitt's bombshell briefing, the story took a dramatic turn. A new name entered the spotlight: David Morales, a former volunteer finance coordinator on AOC's 2022 and 2024 re-election campaigns. Until now, Morales had remained quiet, dismissed from the campaign in 2024 for reasons never publicly disclosed. But now he had resurfaced, and not on AOC's side. In a live exclusive interview with Tucker Carlson, now hosting a widely watched independent news show on streaming platforms, Morales appeared on screen with a steely look in his eyes. "I didn't come forward out of politics," Morales began, his voice calm but resolute. "I came forward because I saw things I couldn't ignore anymore." Tucker leaned in, intrigued. "What kind of things?" Morales exhaled. "In 2023, I was instructed to process a $250,000 donation through the Bronx Unity Foundation, the same one the White House just exposed. But the foundation didn't actually exist. We used a ghost office address, a UPS box in the Bronx. No staff, no public events, no community work, just a name." Tucker's eyes widened. "And who instructed you to do this?" Morales paused. "An intermediary. But the orders came from higher up, people very close to the Congresswoman. And when I raised concerns, I was told to shut up and do my job." Screens across America lit up with headlines like, "AOC Insider Confirms Financial Scheme," "Whistleblower Blows Lid Off Nonprofit Scam," "Breaking," "Ocasio-Cortez Accused of Campaign Laundering by Former Aide." Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt wasn't sitting back and watching. She returned to the podium that afternoon with another file in hand, this one containing audio recordings provided by Morales and corroborated by 2 former staffers. In one particularly damning clip, a voice believed to be a senior advisor to AOC says, Don't worry, the foundation is just a shell. The money lands safe and clean. No one's going to question it. She's untouchable. Karoline let the recording finish before looking up at the cameras. This isn't just unethical. This is potentially criminal. And we are officially urging the Department of Justice to open an investigation. The press room went silent. Even reporters from traditionally left-leaning outlets like MSNBC and NPR sat stunned, unsure of how to spin what was now undeniably serious. That night, as the scandal unfolded on every screen in America, AOC appeared once again on social media with a live stream, an emotional, rambling, often defensive message to her supporters. "They're trying to silence me," she insisted, tears welling in her eyes. "They've been after me since day one. I'm a woman of color in power. They can't stand it." But the public wasn't buying it this time. Her comments were met with a storm of skepticism, even from traditional allies. A prominent progressive blogger tweeted, "This isn't about race or gender. If what they're saying is true, this is corruption, plain and simple. We must hold everyone accountable, even our heroes. #no exceptions." Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt continued to command the national spotlight. Invitations rolled in for interviews, conservative podcasts, and even mainstream media. She accepted a primetime sit-down with Bret Baier, where she laid out the broader implications. "This isn't just about AOC," she said. "This is about a culture of performative activism, where politicians brand themselves as saviors while quietly lining their pockets. The American people deserve better." Polls began to reflect the shifting winds. A Gallup poll released that week showed AOC's favorability plummeting by 17%. Among independents, it dropped by nearly 30%. For the first time in her career, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was on the defensive, fighting a war on two fronts, the media and the law. And Karoline Leavitt? She was just getting started. The morning sun rose over Washington, D.C., casting long shadows across Capitol Hill. But in the underground war room of the White House communications team, all eyes were on a single flash drive. "Are we ready to go public with this?" Karoline Leavitt asked, her voice serious, her posture unflinching. A staffer nodded. "It's confirmed. The metadata checks out. These are real and they're explosive." Karoline turned to the digital display. On it were internal emails between AOC's congressional staff and the leadership team of the so-called Green Future Collective, the second shell nonprofit Karoline had referenced in the first briefing. One of the emails, dated June 14, 2023, read, "We've routed the additional $600,000 through the secondary account. Make sure it's marked under climate education outreach. The IRS won't dig too deep. Also, loop A in before Thursday." But the most damning piece? An email personally forwarded from AOC's own .gov account. "Make sure our people are covered. And tell Nadia to prep the press release about the tree planting ceremony, make it look real. No one needs to know there's nothing actually happening on site." It was cold, calculated, deliberate. Leavitt stepped up to the podium later that afternoon, her fourth appearance in under a week. But this time, the room wasn't combative. It was expectant. Even CNN had assigned their chief political correspondent to attend in person. "I'm about to show you something that may fundamentally change how we view Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez," Karoline began. "And after today, any defense she may have had will collapse under the weight of truth." She revealed the emails, walking the room through each one. She didn't need to embellish, every word spoke for itself. The dates, the names, the tone, it was all there. "These aren't just inconsistencies," Karoline said. "They're confessions. Direct links between her congressional office and fraudulent financial activity. This isn't grassroots. This is graft." The White House released the documents to the public immediately. Digital downloads surged. Within an hour, both the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal confirmed their authenticity via independent analysis. The headlines were brutal. Email bombshell. AOC directly implicated in shell fund scheme. Leavitt delivers again. Smoking gun emails rock Congress. Across the aisle, pressure mounted. Moderate Democrats began publicly distancing themselves from AOC. Senator Joe Manchin called for a congressional ethics review. Even Ilhan Omar and Cori Bush, longtime allies, refused to issue statements in her defense. But the real kicker came from an unlikely source. Nancy Pelosi, long retired from Congress but still an influential voice in Democratic politics, appeared on MSNBC that evening and didn't hold back. "I warned the party years ago," she said. Alexandria made headlines, but she didn't make friends. She built her brand by tearing others down. But now the facts are coming for her, and facts don't care about branding. The DOJ announced a preliminary investigation would be launched into misuse of campaign funds and potential mail fraud. Congressional Republicans began drafting a bipartisan request for AOC's immediate suspension from committee duties pending the investigation. And through it all, Karoline Leavitt stood calm at the center of the political hurricane she had ignited. "This isn't personal," she told Fox News' Laura Ingraham later that night. "It's patriotic. This is what happens when public servants forget they serve the people, not themselves." As Washington braced for impact, whispers began to circulate. Would AOC resign? Would she be arrested? Was this the end of one of the most polarizing figures in American political history? But no one expected what would come next. It was a scene no one could have predicted just 2 weeks earlier. Capitol Hill, once the epicenter of AOC's meteoric rise, now bore witness to her spectacular unraveling. Flanked by attorneys and visibly exhausted, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stepped to the podium outside her congressional office, a swarm of reporters waiting with breathless anticipation. "I have always fought for justice, for climate, and for the working class," she began, voice cracking. "But the last few days have been a political witch hunt designed to silence progressive voices." But the statement felt hollow. Gone was the fiery energy, the confident defiance. What remained was a shadow of the woman who once took on party leadership with unapologetic flair. A reporter shouted, "Do you deny sending the emails, Congresswoman?" She hesitated. "I've been advised not to discuss ongoing investigations." The moment said more than words ever could. That very afternoon, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise filed a formal ethics complaint alongside bipartisan co-sponsors, citing gross misconduct, abuse of office, and fraudulent use of campaign funds. But behind the curtain, the real damage had already been done. The DOJ confirmed they had launched a criminal investigation into the 2 nonprofits linked to AOC, and forensic accountants had uncovered over $4.7 million in unaccounted funds, transferred between a series of accounts, some of which were registered overseas. The final blow came from an unexpected player, the New York State Attorney General's office, which opened a parallel state investigation into tax fraud and misappropriation of state-level grants given to the Bronx Unity Foundation. Multiple staffers were subpoenaed. Several began cooperating immediately. And Karoline Leavitt? She took to the stage for one final briefing, this time not to accuse but to summarize. "What we've seen over the past 2 weeks is the unraveling of a dangerous myth," she said, her tone solemn. "For years, Representative Ocasio-Cortez built her career on anti-establishment rhetoric, weaponizing identity politics and emotion while quietly engaging in the same corrupt practices she railed against." She paused and looked directly at the cameras. "Let this serve as a reminder to all public officials, no one is above scrutiny and certainly no one is above the law. Not even the media darlings." The country watched in awe. Karoline Leavitt, a once underestimated press secretary, had taken on a political Goliath and won. In the days that followed, a House resolution to strip AOC of all committee assignments passed overwhelmingly, including support from nearly 40 Democrats. Public pressure mounted. Constituents flooded AOC's office with phone calls, emails, and protest signs reading, "We believed in you, you lied." Editorials from once supportive media outlets turned sour. The Atlantic ran a headline that stunned even progressives. "The fall of AOC when politics becomes theater." Finally, on a quiet Friday morning, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tendered her resignation from the U.S. House of Representatives. Her statement was brief, blaming a toxic political climate and vowing to continue her activism from the outside. But few were listening anymore. She exited politics not with cheers, but with silence. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt emerged from the scandal as a rising conservative powerhouse. Her approval ratings among Republican voters skyrocketed. Cable networks speculated about a future Senate run or even a place on a national ticket. President Trump praised her in a fiery rally in Ohio. "She's tough, she's brilliant, and she took down the biggest phony in Congress," he shouted to a roaring crowd. We need more Karolines in Washington. In a post-interview with Megyn Kelly, Karoline was asked what motivated her to take the risk. Her answer was simple. Because truth still matters. And the American people deserve leaders who don't lie to their faces while picking their pockets. The story was over. And so was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's political career.